Hey folks, I'm Simon Plenderleith, developer advocate at Platformatic, and joining me today is Luca, our CEO. He's been winding up the stream for us. Thank you, Luca.
Hi, everyone.
And today we're going to have a little bit of a chat about Platformatic Cloud, which is now live and free for everyone as of Monday this week. And we'll be taking a little kind of look. If you've been watching the deep dive, you'll have seen some of the features we've got, such as pull request preview apps and the workspaces and that integration with the Git flow. So Luca, I was wondering first if you could tell me a little bit about what made you want to build a cloud platform in the first place.
Oh, that's a good question. So the cloud platform comes from basically two streams. The first one is that Matteo and I have been conceptualizing Platformatic for quite some time, and we were looking for a way. We were imagining, what can we build with Platformatic? Can we build a platform with Platformatic? And so in that kind of inception, the cloud was the easiest way for us to kind of experiment and put all the hard work of ourselves and the team into something that practically could be consumed, but especially could be tested, right? Can we build a platform with Platformatic? Because that was the initial question. After that, the cloud came organically into solving another problem that both Matteo and I faced several times. That is, in order to demo something, and as a CEO and the sales man hat always wearing, you sometimes want to sell something right a little bit before you have it. To find out attraction, to find if things are working exactly as you expect, so that you can lower your initial cost of adoption and the cost of experimentation. And so we thought, how can we enable developers that they want to build this platform, to have a sneak peek of the platform, so that they can at least have work a step ahead and lower their cost of experimentation. And this one kind of like were the two variables in this equation. And the third one that kind of like came along this journey is that building a cloud is not only helping us, helping the developers, but is helping the overall community, because now we actually can provide a modern, tailor-made experience to deploy Node application. And as out of our experience and out of what we saw on the market, so it's kind of like the trifecta of three factors that are extremely important to us. The first one is, test what you build, enable other people, and support the community.
That's amazing. And so you mentioned there about testing, and that's definitely something I've also seen a lot of development teams struggling with, kind of getting things tested before they hit production in a realistic way, right? That's always a big challenge.
And if you can see the features that we announced this week, like, for example, PR previews, or as we renamed them into dynamic workspaces, are extremely valuable just on their own, right? Even as a standalone feature for everyone. I remember anytime that I design a platform, there was always, but now what I'm going to do with my PR, right? And I think it's it's not a breakthrough feature. If you look at the concept itself of PR previews, we have seen it like since I had way less and fewer white hair, but nobody has ever built it for the API and the backend space. And so that's kind of the opportunity that we saw, is that how can we actually enable that functionality in a space that we firsthand faced being challenging, in a simple way, right? At the core of Platformatic, there is the concept of simplicity, and Platformatic Cloud is all about showing that simplicity firsthand, practically. You can use it. It's not just a theoretical and holistic, it's purely practical. You just can deploy, an application in few seconds, and it's done, right? In a minute, you should get your app already deployed in a static workspace in a Platformatic. And that's how you make it available to a broader audience. But if you just want to test your PR, we believe that it should be something out of the box.
Yeah, absolutely. And so what you were saying there about this kind of being something that's tailored, I think that's something that's pretty unique about Platformatic Cloud, right? Is there are plenty, like you say, there are plenty of hosting providers out there. There's lots of similar kind of functionality in terms of like previews, but actually what's really different about Platformatic is that focus on Node.js and something really tailored to that whole ecosystem, right?
Yeah, and not only that, if you, Matteo and I kind of like, when we started this journey, we're looking into something that, we are both Italian. We are all into food and fashion, right? It's in our blood. And one thing that we both saw as an opportunity was to adapt another model to the technology space. That was, the technology world, especially in enterprise, we are all victim or actors in this space, is build versus buy. But I think if you look in the fashion space, there is a new trend that went a little bit, under the radar. That is the off-the-rack customized, and is what the brands like Suitsupply, for example, brought from an idea in the corner, actually in the trunk of a car, because I encourage everyone to read the story about Suitsupply, but to basically build a model that is reproducible, cost-effective, and especially gives the flexibility, is nimble, gives flexibility, and it doesn't come as a forced way to do things. Like you can go to a Suitsupply store, and if anybody kind of like doesn't know what Suitsupply is, they sell suits, that's their name. But they have two models. They have actually multiple models, but they are famous for this model. You go in their store, you get a suit off the rack, and you go to the tailor, and you can get it customized. And that's exactly what we need in tech, right? So when you mentioned the tailoring part, we believe that the open source and what Platformatic tried to give you is that off-the-rack experience that is of high quality, that is always on trend, that is always up to date, but gives you the chance to make it your own, right? Because long time ago, and I mentioned it 6 years ago, Platformatic clearly came many years later, but the concept is exactly the same. Set of tools, set of practices to make your own. We give you the instructions, and I usually use this image of the Lego to many people, and that's exactly what we are. So this tailoring comes from enabling people's creativity and fitting not one size fits all, but give you the canvas to enable your needs and your creativity in a cost-effective way.
I never imagined we'd be talking about suits today, but that's a great analogy.
Hoodie, right?
Exactly. That makes a lot of sense, and I think what's really interesting about what you're saying there is how that tailoring is really based on having that solid foundation. So what we've got here in Platformatic Cloud is not locking you in completely to Platformatic Cloud, right? You're not having to build stuff in any particular way. You don't have to get locked into different build minutes. You can actually use your existing CI provider. At the moment, we've got things set up for GitHub Actions, right. But that gives a lot of flexibility. And you talking about that whole kind of challenge of build versus buy, this is not something where you're going to be kind of locked into a whole platform. You can mix and match the parts that you want, right?
Correct. And that's very important to us because, as developers, you want always to innovate. You want to be the agent of change, and that's how this world, this industry continuously evolve, right? Thanks to people's creativity, people's initiative, people's ideas of innovation. And there is another factor in all this journey, clearly, that when you work in enterprise, you are facing the so-called budget and the demands. There are different constraints, right? But what is very important is to leverage those constraints to build instead of being built. And that's kind of like very interesting, because what we wanted to do with Platformatic was to not actually create a higher barrier of entry for developers, but to actually say, sure, you can bring your own, you build your CI/CD, your company already made an investment in Harness or in whatever, GitLab, Jenkins, feel free to use it, right? We are working to and probably somebody that check Twitter saw it. We are working on integrating Platformatic, for example, with Dagger. New trend, new way. I think an incredible way to reinvent and rethink about CI/CDs. But for us, the effort to integrating is minimal, because we didn't have any initial bias, right? Our only constraint, our constraints were limited to certain kind of like pillars that we wanted to adhere to, and not really constraints like you must use Lambda, right? So one day we're gonna reveal probably what's behind the scene. But for now, in this kind of like aura of mystery, we are very flexible. You can run Platformatic fundamentally whatever you want, on Kubernetes, on Lambda, on your EC2 instance, on Cloud Run, you name it, right? Anything that you can think of, we can run it, because it's just a Linux process. At the end of the day, it's Node.
And that's the great part. So I know there's plenty of things that we've got to keep under wraps for now, but I think it's fair to say that the open source foundations that Platformatic's built on, and all the open source tooling that we have, that's really what makes all of this possible, right?
100%. I mean, we were very clear and open since the beginning. We are not a new Node, we're just Node. Like many other alternatives, they try to reinvent a new way. We just believe that a new way can be cool, and we respect it, but we believe that there is a certain degree of responsibility in our belief, in our open source belief, that pushes us to kind of like into this evolution more than reinventing, revolving, disrupting. We just really want to evolve things. And one very important thing is that we are Fastify. I mean, that's probably the very provocative stand if you want to pick something. I don't even think it's provocative, because nowadays, and I take full responsibility to say it, Fastify is the de facto choice for building, APIs and backend and web application in Node. I personally do not see strong alternatives to this coherent model that Fastify brings, and we are leveraging every single bit of Fastify to make it possible.
And it's a really rich ecosystem, right, around Fastify, and that's also what gives it strength for developers and development teams to be able to adopt it, the confidence knowing that these are supported modules, people who are very heavily and actively involved in the Node.js community, who are building and maintaining these, right?
And yeah, correct. And that's basically the reason why we strongly believe in Fastify. We believe not only in the fact that Fastify brings functionalities that are pivotal to modern application. We strongly support the community behind, and the community speaks louder than anything else. That's a reality. The reality in these modern tech times is that the community echoes not only the functionalities, now great tools and frameworks and architectures and anything related to tech brings, but they echo the will of these people to contribute to it. And so we want to be active actors on this stage, and plus it's not a secret that we are all involved directly or indirectly from the beginning or from the later time into Fastify, because we saw this opportunity when Matteo started in 2016. I still remember the idea how it was brainstormed, because I was sitting at the table, and I believed since the beginning that that was the future. Because once that you rationalize and you see and you really lived into this kind of like scaling and distributed problems, then it becomes almost an obvious answer, right? So that's why we are also strong, because we all believe in the value that this tool chain is bringing. And Node has been evolving massively. Like if you think about where Node was in 2016, or even before in 2012, and where it is now is a massive change. And there are great alternatives. But what I really love about this evolution, and that's where we, as Platformatic, as a team, as a product, really strongly believe, is that we are moving from one size fits all to finally specialized use of the technology. So we don't see anymore like building something in using a certain technology for everything, right? So the full stack is becoming more a specialized stack. And I use, the kitchen analogy. A real chef doesn't use a single knife in the kitchen. They have multiple knives to make different cuts, right? And every knife has specific cut. You can cut I'm not saying that you can't. You can cut a tomato with a bread knife. But you can also hammer a needle with a screwdriver if you want.
But it's really about choosing the right tool for the job, right?
It's all about
having that freedom.
Correct, and the effort, right? And it's very important for everyone to not only have the freedom, but to have the right support on what is efficient and effective for a specific job.
Brilliant. And so the sense I've got there is this has been a long journey, kind of the beginnings of Platformatic were all seeded long ago in different ways, and so I think we're going to be wrapping things up here today. But one last question for you before we head off. Can you give us any hints about what's coming next for Platformatic?
So we are definitely listening to feedback that we got from early adopters on what we are building, and we take it at heart also to support all the people that have been providing us the feedback. So we are evolving the platform. So the cloud will evolve to support more real case scenarios. For example, one thing that we already is kind of like pre-announced is that in a few weeks we're going to release the support for custom domains, and so CNAME support, and that's going to take our workspaces concept to a different stage. We are going to also introduce some functionalities that will enable the use of Platformatic Cloud for not just simple projects, but we are evolving. We believe that we need to kind of like reflect what the real world wants. We are not forcing people to any bias or any kind of like pre-baked idea on how things should be done. We just need to give them the freedom, in a couple of months I will stay closely tuned and following us very closely. We love to shake a little bit things, and we are trying to be a little bit of game changers and question the norm. We love to follow some of our roots. As Matteo and I are both Italian, we follow some of the roots, and we believe that there is an opportunity to evolve some of the traditional concept to a new era. I can't unfortunately say exactly, but I would really stay tuned. It's not far from now. Very soon But in the immediate time, we are evolving our cloud. And in terms of functionalities, we are kind of like spreading our wings more in, let's say, no, I don't want to say production support, but more real life scenarios for the cloud and for our open source tooling.
Amazing. So really what we can see right now is obviously fantastic and what people can use today, but it's just the beginning, right? And actually the vision's much bigger, so there's plenty more to come. So
yeah. And it's like a tasting menu. This one is just the beginning, is what they bring you even before the appetizer. I would wait for the main course. It's gonna come soon.
I'm ready. I'm definitely ready. Well, thanks so much, everyone, for joining us today. And thank you, Luca. And if you want to catch up with us on Discord, we're over discord.gg Platformatic, Twitter, Platformatic2. And we'll catch you all soon. Thanks a lot.
Ciao, ciao.
Bye, everyone.